The manosphere won. Take a lap, ladies and gentlemen. We are the champions, and we'll keep on fighting and, all that good stuff. Donald Trump owes at least part of his 2024 presidential election victory to the manosphere, the amorphous assortment of influencers who are mostly young, exclusively male, and increasingly the drivers of the remaining online monoculture. Heavens to me. Let's deep dive into what this means. We talked about it a bit this past week, but as this story is about yours truly, partly, I wanted to deep dive into it and talk about what we have here. Now, first, of course, I mentioned this in an earlier segment. They say, in the same way Democrats never found their own Rush Limbaugh, they don't have a Steven Crowder or a Ben Shapiro or even, so help us, a Tim Pool. There are Democrats with followings online, but the cumulative gap in people paying attention to what they say is several orders of magnitude wide. Doesn't matter. Of course it did. The majority of young voters cast their vote for Kamala Harris this election cycle, but her supporters eroded significantly from 2020, underperforming Biden by 11 points in one exit poll's estimation. The gap with young men specifically was even more stark. In 2020, Biden won Pennsylvania male voters under 30 by 9 points, according to CBS exit polls. This year, Trump won that same demographic by 18 points. Other voting blocks shifted as well, blah, blah, blah. I would like to take all of the credit right now. It was all me, nobody else. And only through my sheer hard work can I say that we, pissedoffwire.com. Did you think I was going to say I helped Trump win? Well, I probably had something to do with it, but a little bit. Scott Presler and Charlie Kirk should get all the credit. Charlie Kirk's massive ground game operation outpaced Democrats, and Scott Presler himself being on the ground registering voters. But certainly Wired's mad. I would just like to take this opportunity to say, as you've heard me say in the past week or so, you had a Tim Pool. His name was Tim Pool. And I supported the Democrats in the primary in 2019. And when y'all sabotaged the whole game to prop up Joe Biden, I was like, I ain't voting for that guy. I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I ain't voting for Joe Biden. And so what is heaven help us, a Tim Pool? Let's play this game. Okay. In favor of a progressive taxing system. Oh man, I'm not a taxation is theft libertarian. I love to poke the libertarians here every so often. Not a libertarian. Think there should be things that are largely regulated, but that probably puts me more in a conservative camp than a liberal one, even though liberals are pro-regulation, but fairly moderate. Pro-regulation and old school Democrat pro-choice. I know. Pro-life conservatives are aghast. They don't like my position, and that's okay, because they're still willing to have conversations and compromise, and you know what? To their benefit. They got a president in Donald Trump who put 3 justices on the Supreme Court, and that overturned Roe v. Wade. Me, I actually think it's the wrong decision to send abortion to the states. I believe the federal government, the Supreme Court, namely, has to answer the question of whether or not the unborn are persons, as per the 14th Amendment. And I believe, as much as I'm more of the, I don't know how you governmentally regulate something like this, there's no middle ground. I think the end result is the abolition of abortion as we know it. It'll still exist in some forms, but it'll have to come from a writ of a judge, meaning there has to be a real reason. And that is a crazy reality. I don't know how that works. Like, I have no good answers for you. I imagine it largely gets rid of elective abortion for sure, but you will still get edge cases where there's like a woman with a medical issue and the doctors are like, we don't know how to handle it. And the judge will have to make the decision, not a doctor. It's just all weird. It's all weird. But my point is this. I'm not a staunch conservative guy. I don't wear a suit. I'm just a skateboarding, Chicago dwelling. It is what it is. In Chicago, of course, what did we see? My neighborhood voted for Donald Trump. And the response I got from a bunch of my friends was, yeah, it's because firefighters and cops live here. Yeah. It's a cheaper, lower income area of Chicago on the outskirts near the suburbs. It's right on the border. And largely for that reason, I think it borders like Summit, Stickney. Those are the suburbs. And I don't even know the name of the one. Oak Lawn? I think Oak Lawn to the south. So it's cheaper to live here. But if you want to be a cop or a firefighter, you have to live in the city. And they don't pay you enough to actually do it. So people live outside the city. Or they live just on the edges. That's my neighborhood. These people can't comprehend this stuff. Look at this. CNN's Van Jones says Democrats got beat because conservative turned to alternative media. It's not just that. Let me tell you, if the Democrats had listened to me and said, hey, here's a guy who supported us in 2020. Why isn't he supporting us now? Or I should say in the primary, and then he flipped for Trump in 2020. How did we lose this person? They didn't. They simply said, F you, Tim Pool. You're a far right extremist. F you all the way. I said, oh, okay. There's a CNN clip where this guy says, look, some people don't want boys and girls bathrooms. And this guy goes, how dare you say that? How dare you say boys? They're not boys, they're girls. They're trans girls. And it's like, that is it, dude. These people's brains don't work. You don't have to sit there and be like, I refuse to allow you to speak because you said the word boy. This is Democrats. And so who am I? A moderate liberal guy. Moderate liberal, urban dwelling Chicago, and they lost me. Miami turned red. Parts of Chicago turned red, and they don't stop to ask themselves why. They simply say, why don't Democrats have a Tim Pool? Let me explain for you what this means. Here we go. New Republic. Why does no one understand the real reason Trump won? It wasn't the economy. It wasn't inflation or anything else. It was how people perceive those things, which points to one overpowering answer. I've had a lot of conversations since Tuesday revolving on the question of why Trump won, the economy, inflation, blah, 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 the trans inmate ad. These conversations have usually proceeded along lines where people ask incredulously how majority of voters could have believed this or that. Weren't they bothered that Trump is a felon, an adjudicated rapist, his advocacy for violence against Cheney? Let me pause right there. Tim Pool, who is he? Trump is not a convicted felon. You're liars. In order to convict Trump on the altering business documents charge, you need underlying crimes for which Trump was never convicted. Thus, your fabrications don't faze a person like me. Adjudicated rapist? I'm sorry. You changed the law so that a woman could sue a guy 30 years after the fact with a ridiculous story that made no sense and expect me to believe it. Well, I'm not an idiot, so I don't fall for that. When did he advocate for violence against Liz Cheney? He made a point that so many libertarians have made. And that is, if these warmongers had to stand for even 5 seconds in the countries they want to invade, they would say no dice, no war. How about this? New bill. If you vote to send our troops overseas, you must stand on the front line. This is ridiculous. These people are scumbag evil. They're going to say, or 50 other examples of it is discussing imprecations, obviously disqualifying him because you people live in a paranoid, delusional state of fake news. I am not a staunch conservative pro-lifer. I'm a Chicago-born former Democrat, supported Bernie, Andrew Yang, and Tulsi Gabbard. And you said, lie to them. You want a Democrat, Tim Pool? What you're saying is, Tim, why don't you shut the up and just lie to everybody, lie every step of the way, mislead your audience, march in lockstep, and never deviate on the absurdities of what the Democratic Party proposes. And I'm going, no, I'm going to talk about what I think is real. Come to me and say, Tim, what do you think about abortion? Oh, look, my issue is largely, I think, in Europe, you see a 12-week ban in most countries. Some go up to 16. I think it's fairly reasonable. I don't like abortion. I think it's largely elective abortion is largely wrong. But you do run into this problem of, do we have women with legitimate medical issues? And I'm not saying, because I know the pro-life arguments. They say look, the doctor says it's 10 weeks. The baby is developing with these serious problems we can't resolve. It's going to suffer and die, and it could affect the health of the mother. These are edge cases. Totally agree. What do you do in that regard? Do you then say, okay, let's get a writ from a judge? I mean, that terrifies me. I don't like elective abortion, meaning women are like, oops, got pregnant again, better go get an abortion. That's terrible. It shouldn't be illegal. It should be unthinkable. And only in the most extreme scenarios when the doctor has to make the decision. But it's a cultural problem. So I don't have good answers for you. What I can tell you is certainly not a pro-lifer, not a staunch libertarian. I like Ron Paul because it's for freedom, but I actually think you need regulation. Why? I don't know. We got phthalates and PCBs leaching into our foods. The free market's not going to solve that because people can't see a long-term chronic illness problem. I don't have good answers for you. What I can say is these things are fundamentally true. They couldn't see that Harris, whatever her shortcomings, was a fundamentally smart, honest, well-meaning person. You live in a paranoid, delusional state. They say the answer is right-wing media. Today, the right-wing media, Fox News, the entire News Corp, Newsmax, One American News Network, the Sinclair Network, radio, TV, blah, 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 Elon Musk's X, Joe Rogan, and much more set the news agenda. Joe Rogan supported Bernie Sanders. These people are absolutely bat-ish. They don't get it. Joe Rogan was a lefty guy. He was actually promoting universal basic income. And this is the game they play. Now they have people like Joe Rogan, people like me, and we're saying Donald Trump. Why do we have to be in this position? Well, they're lying. Here we go. They don't seem to get it. They're going to jump into the New York Times and the Washington Post. Indeed. Okay, before I grab that, we got to give a shout out to what makes this all possible. Go to castbrew.com. Buy our coffee. It's our coffee company. We got a bunch of different blends. Try Rise with Roberto Jr. if you like a light roast. Cast Brew's Appalachian Nice is our #1 seller. Try that if you like a dark roast. It's my personal favorite. And become a member at timcast.com. Join the Discord server where tens of thousands of people are waiting to be your friend. And I'm half kidding, but our Discord members, we have tens of thousands. They say, hey, Tim, promote the Discord more because we want people to come and hang out, watch the shows. They do shows. You can call in and talk to us and our guests, and it supports all the work that we do. Anyway, back to the New Republic's whinging. Let me say that again in case it got lost, they repeat. Today, the right-wing media sets the news agenda in this country, not the New York Times, not the Washington Post, which bent over backwards to exert no influence, not CBS, NBC, or ABC. The agenda is set by all the outlets I listed above. Even the mighty New York Times follows in its wake, aping the tone they set disturbingly often. I'm going to take some credit for this, and I mean it. I have been pushing this for years, that we must set the news cycle. We decide. And that's why a lot of the stories that I cover, I find through Twitter. Someone will tweet the story, tweet the information, and then I will look for any sources that have dug into this and fact-checked it. That's why I typically use the Post-Millennial. I use the Post-Millennial quite a bit, and recently I've been a big fan of the Daily Wire. They have some good articles. They just broke, and I say this because they just broke a huge story on FEMA, where they revealed that FEMA was actually ordering people, one official, to skip houses where people put up Trump signs. That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, we have been fighting to set the news cycle. And you know what? We're winning. But here's the best part. What they don't understand is it's not that Democrats don't have a Tim Pool, like I already stated. It's that Democrat media functions as such. Get your talking points from the party, and no matter what is true or otherwise, lie. Let me tell you why that doesn't work. Because people have Google. If you Google search a story and you watch the video of Donald Trump saying, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. And you go, oh, Trump condemned neo-Nazis. And then every single corporate press outlet goes, Trump refuses to condemn neo-Nazis. You're like, okay, they're lying. Then you watch Timcast. And I go, yeah, Trump condemned neo-Nazis. And you're like, I know, I saw that. You know that I'm not lying. And so what I can say is this. I get things wrong all the time. I don't know everything. I'm just some dude. But what you find is when you watch CBS, NBC, ABC, when you read the New York Times, the Washington Post, they're lying to you. You've confirmed it. You're not suffering Gelman amnesia. You then turn to Timcast or Joe Rogan and you see a story and you say, I saw the video of Trump. What Tim is saying is true. You then say, I have more reason to trust the next thing Tim says is true. Democrats want me to lie. That's what they're saying, Tim. They're saying, Tim Pool, lie to people so that Democrats can win. Why would I do that? I want what's best for this country. I want an end to these garbage wars. I want sound economic policy. No, Tim, stop, they say. Tim, just lie so Democrats can have power. Why? What does that do for anybody? What does it do for you? What does it do for me? Nothing. And so instead of saying we lost our liberal social media influencers, they say we never had them in the first place. And that exposes what they're really all about. And that is, they always expected us to march in lockstep even when they were making things up. The fake news. Blah, blah, blah. They said, I've been in the media for 3 decades and I've watched it happen from the front row. Fox News came on in 96, blah, blah, blah. Come on, let's go. The result is what we see today. The readily visual analogy I use is once upon a time, the mainstream media was a beach ball and the right-wing media was a golf ball. Today, the mainstream media is a volleyball and the right-wing media is a basketball, which is bigger. This is the year in which it became obvious the right-wing media has more power than the mainstream media. Thank you. It's true. It's not just that it's bigger, it's that it speaks with one voice. And that voice says Democrats and liberals are treasonous elitists who hate you. And Republicans and conservatives love God and country and are your last line of defense against your son coming home from school, your daughter. Ha! It's funny, but they're in a cult. Because if they paid attention, they'd be like, wait a minute. What do you mean Tim Pool is pro-choice? That's why I keep bringing it up. So Don Lemon is interviewing a guy. And he says, who are you voting for? The guy says Trump. And he says, where'd you get your news? And he goes, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool. And then he goes, and he's like, I try to avoid the more extreme ones like Andrew Tate. And he goes, isn't Tim Pool a little extreme? Because Don Lemon is a cultist who lives in a paranoid delusional state. Anybody who watches Tim Pool, me, knows that actually fairly moderate. And I feel like if I did just go full conservative and say, I'm pro-life and I'm Christian, I'd get way more viewers. But that's not me. It's not what I do. I just try to be honest about what I think and what I feel. And that is, I believe in God, but I'm not a Christian. I will outright say, like, I know a lot of you are Christians. I do not feel the faith that you do. I grew up Catholic, left, claimed to be atheist, read some books and realized, well, that was kind of dumb. And then read more philosophy and science, said there is a God. I just don't know that I believe in Christianity. I'm still moderate. So I'm basically moderate. Why? Look at where I grew up. Look at what influenced me. What developed my neural pathways. It was a neighborhood of first responders, firefighters, and police officers. And my neighborhood flipped for Donald Trump in Chicago. Why did Donald Trump win? They say the right-wing media is why he exists in our political lives in the first place. No, it isn't. Trump is a symptom, but they don't get it. They started pushing weird crackpot ideas in the late 2000s, and we rejected it. And Trump emerged only because of this. And I'll tell you what's proof. If only we had a Tim Pool. I worked for Fusion when Trump began his run for president. That's ABC News Univision. And it was a network of leftists that were pushing stuff like pro-trans kids. That's where I worked. I worked for Vice before that. So how do you not have a Tim Pool? Well, I was there working for you. I was the poster child of new media for these people. They cheered me on. Shane Smith of Vice at the Knight Foundation said, it's because of Tim Pool we did news. How about them apples? And I maintained this position. I'll tell you when it started. I went to go report in Sweden. Paul Joseph Watson said, I'd challenge any journalist to go spend the night in Sweden, in Malmö, and I'll pay their travel. And I said, I'll do it. And he was like, I was taking the piss, but okay. And so he sent me several $1,000s. Now, the total raise across the internet was like 20-something thousand, of which Paul Joseph Watson was slightly less than 10%. I went to Sweden, and when I went, people I worked with, journalists from Vice, said, Tim, don't go. Not kidding. I was like, why not? And they were like, because Trump's lying. And I was like, good, let's prove him wrong. And they went, no, don't do it. I was like, well, why are you telling me not to go? I don't understand. And they said, because Trump's lying about it, give the money to a charity. I'm not kidding, they did. And I responded with, if Trump's lying, I'm going to go prove it, and that's journalism. And they all turned on me like that. How dare you report? And what did I find? My reporting came back that while crime is up in Malmö, it was not Afghan refugees. It was largely the children of Somalis. Crime dating back to the 90s. And that most of these neighborhoods that were claimed to be like in flames, actually not that bad. Nicer than Chicago. But crime was still up. In fact, my reporting was so beneficial to their ultimate narrative, Huffington Post wrote, Tim Pool is right. But man, was it crazy to have these people tell me not to do it. And that's when it began. From then on, I went and reported on things. I remember this. I was at Berkeley, and a far leftist threw an M80 at an old lady who fell down and exploded at her feet. And I was like, holy crap. This is nuts. They said, Tim, why are you reporting this? I'm like, because it happened in front of me. Stop filming it, they said. I said, are you crazy? Here we are. I did not leave the left ever. I have never made a video where I say I'm leaving the left. I have never made a video where I said the left left me. Leave that for everybody else. I did make a video where saying I'm voting for Donald Trump now. I supported Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard in the 2019 primaries. And then they decided they were going to spike it and make Joe Biden the candidate. And I said, why? I don't want Obama 2.0. I ain't voting for that. Trump put out his agenda and I said, I got to vote for Trump. Here we are. Look what they keep writing over and over and over again. These people live in a paranoid, delusional state. It is fake news. It is not real. They say liberals, rich and otherwise, live in a bubble where they've never seen this stuff. I would beg them to see it. Watch some Fox, listen to Christian radio, experience the news that millions of Americans are getting on a daily basis. You'll pretty quickly come to understand what I'm saying here. Yeah, maybe they'll wake up and be like, wait, that illegal immigrant took over an apartment complex where? What? In how many cities? Indeed. What do you mean butter costs $7.50? You see that one last week? When Joe Scarborough was like, he said butter was $3, and Micah goes, it's $7. And he goes, $7? Was it framed in gold? Butter right now by me is $7.50 for butter. It's a good point, Joe. How do you not know this? Regular working class people are probably thinking the exact same thing when they go to the grocery store and wonder why their butter, a 4-pack of butter, normal butter you buy, is $7. And they're saying, is it framed in gold? But you know what you're saying? You're saying you're an elitist who has no idea what's going on in the world. They say, contemplate this fact. If you think they're done, you're in fantasy land. They're not happy with the rough parity, the slight advantage they have now. They want media domination. Uh-huh. But guess what? I am not a diehard conservative far-right guy. I'm a middle-of-the-road fence-sitting dude. That's what they call me, milquetoast fence-sitter. That's the joke. Someone commented on a video like 8 years ago, and I thought it was hilarious, so I went with it. Certainly, I've not been so much fence-sitting on the gun issue or Donald Trump. They go on to say, this is a crisis. The Democratic brand is garbage in wide swaths of the country, and this is the reason. Consider this point. In Missouri on Tuesday, voters passed a pro-abortion rights initiative, and another that raised the minimum wage and mandated paid leave. These are all Democrat positions, but as far as electing someone to high office, the man-boy love party could probably come closer to the Democrats. Indeed. Trump beat Harris by 18 points. Josh Hawley beat Lucas Kuntz, who ran a good race, by 14 points. The reason? Right-wing media. And it's only growing. And I haven't gotten to social media and TikTok and other platforms, which far more people are getting their news these days. The right is way ahead on those fronts, too. Liberals must wake up and understand this and do something about it before it's too late, which it almost is. I'll keep it simple for you guys. You ain't going to lie to Joe Rogan. He's going to sit there. He's going to say, pull that up, Jamie. You ain't going to lie to me. I'm going to sit here and be like, let's Google search that. Let's see what the truth is. And when we're wrong, we'll say, oh, I guess I was wrong about that. That's why the right has media right now, because reality has a right-wing bias. So by all means, enjoy it. The lies, the manipulations. I'll leave it there. I'm going to post one as a pre-record. I'll post one later. So smash that like button. Become a member at timcast.com. We got more segments coming up later today. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next segment.